Now, many of the instruments that we're going to use for drum design and creating drum patterns in Reason are capable of loading sounds directly into them. So they're sample playback devices. So the ReDrum, for example, although it does contain areas that you can edit your sounds, it is a sample playback device. And we're going to look at the samplers in the next couple of videos. And again, obviously they're sample playback devices. They may have synthesis engines, but they play back samples as their sound source. Now, Kong is a little different. I mean, it does play back samples and it is capable of loading samples directly to its pads, but it's also got a few other tricks up its sleeve. So let's have a little look at a typical kit. Now, this is a Kong kit, and if we scroll through the sounds here, we can see that, and I'll just show you this again. I opened up the lower section. So Kong will look like this as soon as you load it up, but click this little drop down area here and you've got a whole another section underneath, and this is really the engine or the core of Kong, if you like, and it's where the sound creation and sound playback takes place. So if we just click on a pad, you can see that the playback module, if you like, changes in the lower section as we play back. And realistically, every pad can be a different playback module in this lower section. So let me just try and fit as much of Kong on the screen as possible. And that looks pretty good. So, for example, if I play back this closed hat, you can see it's an NN Nano, and this is a sampler. And although it's playing back 4 layers of samples, it is actually playing back samples. The same with the open hat, the same with this tight hi-hat above it, and the same with this clap. Now, if we click on this drum module area, we can see we've got more than just the Nano sampler. So that we've got a Nurse Rex loop player, and this is a miniature version of the Dr. Octo Rex, and it's sort of like one section of like an eighth of an Octo Rex. The Nano sampler is really a cut down version of the NNXT sampler that we're going to look at in the next video. But everything else apart from that is not sample playback. It's actually pure synthesis or physical emulation. So let's take a look at, say, the synth bass drum. If I click on the bass drum here and click on synth bass drum, you can see we've got a synthesizer to create this bass drum. And this is very similar to really early drum machines. The 909, for example, that we looked at, and this is the 909 here, that we looked at in an early video that I mentioned, used a mixture of sample playback and synthesis. It was actually one of the first drum machines to do this. So Kong really takes this a step further, and we're able to synthesize just about any sound we want, and we've got dedicated drum modules to do it. So you can tweak your kick drum sound really finely with all these different areas. We can add noise, we can add extra click. We've got a click level. We can add decay. Take the noise away and we've got a purer tone. Take the resonance down. You can see we can really drastically alter the sound to really just about anything you want. And this is very different from using samples. So Kong is capable of creating these synthesized tones, and it's also capable of creating physical emulation and physical modeling sounds as well. So we can actually create real snare drum sounds and real toms and real kick drums. Again, we've got plenty of parameters we can alter here, but this is physical modeling, and it's similar to analog modeling, except it's modeling a physical instrument as opposed to an electronic circuit. So if you want to recreate real drum sounds very accurately, and you want to create electronic drum sounds very accurately, these are the modules to use as opposed to straight samples. There's nothing wrong with straight samples. We're going to see how these are very useful, but this is a very different way of creating your sounds, and I'd suggest taking a look at it. If you want to know more about Kong, if you want to see it a little bit more in depth, obviously in a couple of videos, we've not got time to cover the whole instrument. Take a look at my Kong tutorial. That's an entire 2-hour tutorial just on Kong. It's a pretty intense beast. and really deserves that much time for it to be covered. So next up, we're going to take a look at a few more instruments within Reason, and we're going to take a look at Reason's samplers and how we can quickly load sounds into these and use them to make our beats.